Hey guys, it's Super Effective here. When Eastwood and I were recording the voiceovers for this episode, we noticed we had so much to share, so we decided to break it up into two parts. This video will be focused on commanding guidelines and tips to using everything as super effectively as possible.
Commanding a Natural Selection 2 is a game of action and reaction. For each action from a team, there's a response from the other one. Remember that if you take the initiative and are aggressive, you can force the enemy to respond in consequence. If you can predict the next reaction, you can dictate the direction of the battle. Let's discuss your overall objectives as a Marine commander and familiarize yourself with some strategy terms. The Marines' main objectives are: destroy as many harvesters as possible. This will delay higher life forms and research. Eliminate higher alien life forms when they appear. Destroy upgrades to expose the alien weaknesses. Maintain a good resource flow by defending your extractors and recapture lost resource nodes. And finally, annihilate alien hives. When one of the teams attempts to go on the offensive, this is called a push. Locations that your team will push are parts of the map that have strategic value, like a resource node or a tech point. As Marine, it is important to hold the line in order to prevent your base from being exposed to an eventual rush and not to push in all directions at the same time. If they do this, everybody will be out of position when the time calls for stronger defense. Furthermore, having a front line of Marines across the map will allow you easily to detect aliens that want to sneak behind your lines to take down your extractors. You want to try to get a group of Marines pushing an enemy location, one watching the middle of the map and others defending other locations in case of an alien rush in response to your own attack. A trade is when you are trying to conquer an enemy position but end up losing one of yours. If aliens are attacking a position that is not important to you, you can take a chance and attack a position that is more valuable to them in order to make it a worthwhile trade. Never leave resource nodes you control uncaptured. Try to send Marines who are respawning to do the dirty job. It saves time instead of pulling someone from the front line. It helps to build practical duplicate structures in some cases in order to create a sense of base fortitude. Having just one of any critical structure creates a weak point in your team's war machine, and if the aliens exploit it, your team may spiral out of control. Constructing additional command stations provide you with additional places to place IPs, a remote location to use a distress beacon. This effectively gives your team an extra life if your primary base gets overrun. However, don't be in such a hurry to build an additional command station, as their benefits won't be realized until mid-game. Use those resources to get your team a good foothold. Constructing additional infantry portals provides you with shorter respawn queues. It effectively makes your main base much harder to be swarmed early game. The longer your team stays dead, the less resistance the alien team will encounter while attacking. Therefore, if your Marine team is over 8 players, you should consider getting an additional infantry portal pretty early. However, if your team is performing well, this can be delayed for the time being. Mid-late game, if you are planning on going on the offensive where you might take more casualties, you may want to build a third or even a fourth IP if you can afford it. Constructing multiple observatories provide you with a surprise distress beacon if the original gets disabled or destroyed, and better coverage for observatory proximity scan. Constructing a second arms lab at a different base can provide you with a backup if the original is unpowered or destroyed, and allows for dual upgrade research, but reserve this tactic only if you have a lot of resources. Any decent alien will attempt to destroy your extractors to slow down your income. Here are a few tips to optimize your income for as long as possible. Don't leave resource nozzles that you control without an extractor built on them for too long, especially those deep within your territory. Dedicate a Marine with a welder to patrol frequently harassed extractors. Research mines to provide effective temporary early game extractor defense. Dependent on the layout of the map, if your team can defend an important choke point with regular Marine presence and or turrets, it will naturally direct attention away from extractors in your territory. However, there's a point where the enemy team may be doing well to keep your extractors down and or your team's movement limited, which in turn will make you get caught up with trying to rebuild extractors over and over. This is called the rebuilding loop, and it is easy to slip into and be distracted by it. Player balance influences how often this will happen, but upgrades also play a role. You may have to make a tough call and redirect your focus back onto researching upgrades in order to break the cycle. Structure placement is more important than you think. Sure, you can make a sweet looking base, but there are a couple of small things that can be done to optimize your team's efficiency and base defenses. Place infantry portals as far as possible from each other. Make sure people spawning have a line of sight on the other infantry portal. For example, don't place 2 infantry portals on opposite sides of a structure or too close to walls. Respawning Marines will need space to move and orient themselves. Place the arms labs far from other structures to avoid collateral damage from gorgeous bile bombs. Try to hide the arms lab out of sight and right up against the wall. This will lessen its threat priority and prevent skulks from hiding behind it. A good location is any place that you, as the commander, can shoot at quickly after logging out. Place the prototype lab in your main base, if possible as far from entrances as you can and spaced away from other structures. Generally, observatory should be placed close to a wall, in a corner, and if possible hidden or at least in a place easy to defend. Most importantly, proximity scan of the observatory needs to be taken into account to cover multiple paths or detect alien threats from a distance. Remember that the observatory can recall Marines to the nearest command station, even if it's not the same room. But remember, you cannot distress beacon to a tech point that has no command here. Beaconing your Marines to the wrong base can put your entire game at risk. The stress beacon can instantly spawn Marines who are currently respawning on IPs. Armories can be placed in a forward location if a large group of Marines all need supplies. Generally, don't place one right by a wall to allow your Marines to move around it. The exception to this is if you are using it to block corridors or entrances by creating an armory wall. The advanced armory needs to be protected and must remain in a well-defended base. Only one is needed. Unlike most of the structures, phase gates should be placed in open spaces. A good phase gate network consists of 3 phase gates around the map to form a triangle in order to control one half of the battlefield. An ideal setup is a phase gate in your main base, one in the middle of the map, and a forward phase gate closer to the enemy base. You don't need a phase gate in every tech point room you control. More than 3 phase gates is a bad idea. Remember to make sure they are protected either by mines, sentries, or Marines with an armory. Don't build a robotics factory if you don't plan on using mechs, arcs, sentries or power surge in the forthcoming minutes, otherwise it's a waste of resources. Robotics factories intended for sieging should be placed in a forward location. This is because arcs travel slowly and a lot of time can be saved by not having the arcs travel from a further robotics factory. The following are things to consider when using your support abilities. They will help you maximize your team's efficiency. You will need to perform triage to make the most of your team resources spent on assists. This means that if a Marine is in a fight you believe you can win, then assist him, but don't waste your team resources on expendable Marines. Try to give healing priority to your best Marines who are performing well. They are more likely to influence a favorable outcome. Unfortunately, this means you should avoid trying to heal everyone. Generally, the more people in the team, the less medpacks you will need to use, since the group should be able to cover one another, and you can't afford to medpack everyone. If a Marine not in a fight is requesting an ammo pack, drop it in front of him and not on him, so he can decide when he will pick it up. Remember to randomly drop ammo to Marines who are attacking a hive location or an harvester. They're going to need it. 1 ammo pack per Marine per request is enough to last them a while. Nano shield is expensive, so use it with consideration. If you're going to nano shield a target, make sure it is worth it, either by giving a Marine the edge to win an important fight, or by delaying it long enough for reinforcements to arrive. To make the most out of the duration, carefully watch the enemy's attack and movement of your friendly target. Nano shield just before your target is about to get hit. Nano shield can sometimes affect the wrong target if they are close beside each other. This is because their hitboxes are overlapping. You can correct this by offsetting your cursor as far away from the undesired object while staying as close to the intended target as possible. Don't worry if your cursor is not right on top of the intended target. There's a small area of selection when using nano shield. An exosuit being attacked by an Onos, for example, is a privileged target for a nano shield. Scan can generally scare off aliens if they know they're being scanned. If the aliens are unfazed by this, then it is important that you warn your traveling Marines about alien ambush locations. Scans can also generate a little bit of light, which is excellent for illuminating a dark room for your Marines. When a group of Marines are pushing a hive location, scanning provides them with increased awareness of enemy presence that may retaliate. If you have a decent amount of team resources, it helps to periodically do a number of scans through the enemy territory. This will reveal the aliens' outgoing movements for the next few moments. Order your team to look at their minimaps when you do this, so they can be on their guard. Also, you can scan vulnerable areas of your territory to look for possible surprise attacks and gorge tunnels. It is invaluable when you need to track down a pack of aliens moving, especially when they escort an Onos. If you can determine their direction of attack early enough, you have more time to prepare your defenses. Aliens will often target power nodes in an attempt to disable the room. You can surprise them by using power surge on a critical unpowered structure. Here are some possible uses. Restore the power to an observatory to pull off an emergency distress beacon, or power up a remote phase gate to infiltrate enemy territory without having to build the power node. The following is how to use your 2 units effectively. Order a mech to follow marines or an exosuit by selecting the mech and right-clicking on the target. It will follow and restore the armor of the target and nearby friendlies. Having idle mechs near armories will help restore retreating marines back to full strength. Mechs can help substitute marines constructing structures, therefore keeping the marines as combat effective as possible. You will need 3 to 4 arcs to out-damage the healing effects of a crag and possible gorgeous healing structures. Use the Ark's ability to shoot through walls to your advantage. Even if you can't reach a hive, you can take out harvesters. This will deny the aliens access to those resources. Arcs can make short work of fortified alien positions that would otherwise be risky or slow to clear out by other means. When you hold the shift key, all movement and ability orders will be executed in sequence. This will give you the freedom to attend to something else while those orders are being carried out. For example, you can order marines, mechs and arcs to travel a specific path to avoid danger instead of taking the shortest route. Mechs build and repair units in order. Arcs can travel to a destination, then deploy when they get there while you're doing something else. Very often during a game you will hear an alert that sounds like one of these.
Your base is under attack. Soldier needs ammo. Soldier needs order.
During the course of a game there will be many of these. You can press your spacebar to jump to the alert to address the issue. Issues can pile up so quickly, so keep your fingers on that spacebar. Also, frequently check your map for any outstanding issues every 5 to 8 seconds to look for alerts like your base under attack or enemy movement. These will display as red dots, rings or icons. Very often a Marine commander will need to quickly use assists to support the team. Familiarize yourself with the following default hotkey combinations: E and A ammo, E and S medpack, E and D nano shield, and finally E and F scan. It is encouraged that you force yourself to use the appropriate hotkeys instead of clicking. After a few games you will know every hotkey by heart. Micromanaging with control groups will enable you to command your team outside your current view. One of the best uses of control groups is to set up one or several observatory in a control group to react faster in case of a needed beacon. Set control groups to your research structures, so you can research remotely. Order your mechs and arcs without having to find them. You can also issue move orders by right-clicking on a location on your minimap instead of the ground itself. Generally, there are only 2 reasons you should ever have to log out of the command station. The first is when a single small alien lifeform is harassing something in your base. If this happens, drop 2 medpacks on top or near your command chair and log out to fight him. However, if there are more enemies, wait for backup to arrive before logging out. The second is if there are no marines in your base and you need a vital structure built. In either case, you must make sure of the following. Know the orientation of the command chair, so you know what direction to look when the doors are opening. Have absolute confidence in your ability to shoot. That your team doesn't urgently need you to do something important, like dropping supplies or structures. And finally, that your team is informed why you are jumping out for a moment, so that they understand why you are not in the chair.
Hold down your locations at ET and repair. I'm hopping out to build the phase gate at base.
Build structure and waypoint.
Oh God, we have no commander. Panic!
Build structure and waypoint.
Happens to me too often when I'm commanding and I help
Objective
out.
completed.
I think nobody's in base and they'll freak out that there's nobody commanding.
That's why I say those things. Eastwood and I would like to thank you guys for watching this episode of Tactical Operations. Rate, subscribe, and leave in the comments below what was the biggest contribution to your commanding career. But your lesson is not done yet, because the next part of Advanced Marine Commanding will cover the stages of the game, strategies, and tactics. So, until next time, see you all in the next respawn.
Okay.
Whee!
Oh, I'm going too fast.